Hey, this is Rod Santomassimo, and welcome to the next installment of our Top Producer Series. And today we have a tertiary treasurer, Mr. John McCellan of SVN Miller. Not only is John an CCIM, but he's also an SIOR. He's a senior advisor with over 32 years experience in the market of Salisbury, Maryland. So John, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Rod. Great to be here and share some insights.
Well, John, we're going to jump right into it. 32-year veterans, we're going to take you back 3 decades. Why the heck did you decide you wanted to do commercial real estate?
Well, I'm actually a degreed accountant, and I was literally a bean counter for Purdue Farms, the chicken company many of us have heard of. And one day they handed me my pink slip in a poultry downturn, and I was left looking for positions. And a man named Henry Hanna, also a CCIM and SIOR, knew me locally, asked me if I wanted to consider a career in commercial real estate. Initially, I kind of buffed him off, and why would I want to do something silly like that? Because I had accounting jobs in my future. I turned down 2 salaried accounting jobs and got into commercial real estate and haven't looked back.
Okay, now if you're working with Purdue, after a large corporation, you're working in a bureaucratic position, quite frankly, as an accountant. There's nothing entrepreneurial in your background from that standpoint, but was there anything entrepreneurial from your background before Purdue, before the accounting?
Actually, during my time at Purdue, and one of the reasons I think I am still in Salisbury is I had met another accountant here in town, and we had started a franchise of a sub-delivery business. And so in 1987, I was about a year into that business, wasn't making money yet, still had debt, and owed the money to my father, and realized that unless I want to default on that loan, I better stay here and run the business. So that kept me here for what's now a real estate career.
Okay, I appreciate that. So you joined Mr. Henry Hanna 32 years ago. And so, and I know, because I know you still work in one way or another with Henry, do you not?
I see Henry almost every day. He's my mentor. In fact, we call him the godfather of real estate around here, because pretty much everybody in the business today was recruited in one fashion or another by Henry Hanna.
Okay, so let's go back to the early years. And if you can remember, you're just getting now with being a tertiary market, I'm sure you did a little bit of everything. But do you remember the early on deals or transactions or lessons you learned that are still with you today?
Yeah, I think one of the things we did was, as a 25-year-old, of course, I had no income, no savings. I was living paycheck to paycheck. And I asked Henry, what's the salary you're going to offer me? Which he laughed. But we ended up negotiating a little research salary. I helped him develop his first, what you would today call a CRM, a company called RealBase, developed by a CCIM named Lee Arnold. My job was to document, and it was like a Dewey Decimal System of properties in the market. That gave me a tremendous exposure to the properties, the owners, kind of what was happening. And as I transitioned through that, I began to get some calls and get to know some people, and literally had my first closing about a month after my salary ended, and I thought I was loaded.
Well, that's an incredible takeaway for a variety of reasons. Number one, new brokers tend not to appreciate the value of knowing their market. Absolutely. And even today with some of the seasoned veterans that we coach, I mean, some multi-million producers, what makes them different is they know the market better than anybody else. They understand the market, and therefore they understand the opportunities. So a great initial lesson from your standpoint. Right. So you left the research position, you go full commission now, is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay, so what did you decide you were attracted to? What kind of deals were you doing? Tell me about that.
Being, as you said, a small tertiary market, I was doing a little bit of everything. The beauty then and the beauty today is that the so-called big boys, the big national, international firms, are not in this market. They're about 2 to 2.5 hours away. So it was not unusual to get a call from a broker needing some help in this area, somebody from Baltimore or Philadelphia needing help in this area, or frankly, we would just get calls based on signs. Literally had a New York investor walk in about 30 days into the business and wanted to buy a shuttered Montgomery Ward store for multiple millions of dollars. I sold him the property. They later defaulted on the contract, but the entity they formed is still the owner of the property today. And actually, my broker, Brent Miller, his family still owns that property.
Okay, interesting. So take us through those early years. Now, what did you find you were really good at, or really saying this is the kind of deals or people I want to work with?
I think as I got known in the community, at the time I started, I had only lived in this community for 3 years. Knew very, I was a kind of go to the soybean factory every day and didn't get out a lot. Wasn't involved in anything, just kind of involved in a couple of social groups, but really didn't know many people. So as I got into the business and I began to study properties and talk to people, and Henry would introduce me to people, and we worked in a firm that was residential and commercial. My first deal actually was a referral from a residential agent who said, "Hey, I'm working with a guy who's looking to buy some land for his business." And that really was my first settlement. And the deals that I was attracted to, and for better or worse, I'm still attracted to today, are the hard ones, the ones that take some creativity, the ones that take some analytical, as an accountant, I am analytical by my nature, detailed by nature. So sometimes I get in too deep for my own good, but the deals that require a little work, a little creativity, are the ones I have liked and still like.
Okay, perfect. So you talked about one of the key aspects of your success is obviously your brand, your personal brand. Now, SIOR Miller is the dominant brand in your market. It's the dominant brand in the region, as a matter of fact. Right. But within that, how many associates are in SVN today?
About 20.
Okay, so very competitive given the size of the market, very competitive as far as SVN. So you have to differentiate yourself. So how exactly do you go about differentiating yourself, building your personal brand?
I believe in kind of providing kind of an over-the-top solution. I find myself getting frustrated when I go ask another broker, "Well, where's your floor plan?" "Well, the owner didn't have one." "Well, okay, draw one. Go hire an architect. You get it done." You've got to provide that to do a good service. You've got to get sometimes down in the weeds. And I have found that that sometimes, again, I get a little too deep for my own good, but I also find that my clients are loyal to me because I get deep in the weeds and I help them come along. I'm not dealing with, a lot of sophisticated REITs. I'm dealing with mom and pops. I'm dealing with kind of local or regional companies who don't have a big real estate department or aren't used to buying and selling property. So I hold their hand a little more, and I think that leads to success.
Okay. Now, but you holding hand is one thing. That's the process of your transactions. But so back to your presence, your brand. Is that word of mouth? Are you marketing yourself in a particular way?
I believe in you often hear it said it's important who you know, but it's more important who knows you. And to this day, I can point to one of my most successful real estate relationships with a local family started because I was invited to join the board of directors of the local chamber of commerce. Sat directly across the table from their CFO. The family has since liquidated their holdings and they're now kind of local charitable philanthropists. But the CFO and I are partners in a real estate project that we bought some land to build a building on. And that has led to multiple transactions with the family as they've gone off. They developed an industrial park that I still am marketing 15 years later. And it's really about getting known in the community. What started out as the board of directors was a very kind of harrowing, hesitant experience. Gee, am I good enough to be on the board of directors? 7 years later, I was the president of the chamber. At the time, the youngest president of the chamber. And have continued to stay involved in groups like that. That one of the advantages in a tertiary market is it's easier to get known when you're the only firm in town, so to speak. You've been around as long as I have, doing what I've been doing. I know a lot of people. I know a lot of history. I'm also, maybe it's a later question, but I also find myself naturally curious.
Okay.
I think that's an attribute that a broker, young broker, old broker has to have. You know, I can be driving down the road with my wife and did you see that? Did you see that? Hey, look over there. She's like, what? I didn't even catch her. But well, that parking lot's empty. What's going on? Or look, there's a paint color different on that building. What's going on? And so you start asking those questions and you'll begin to find yourself as being maybe on the leading edge of what's going on, and it can lead you to deals before anybody else has kind of woken up.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate that. And so another takeaway from what you're sharing with me is the desire and true full engagement in the community. And that's because they have to, because you desire to and get to know people and get known is one key thing that keeps you apart from your competitors and even from your associates is your engagement in the community. Now, I know also at SVN Miller, part of their culture is they really want you out in the community as well. So does that help reinforce what you're doing every day?
Absolutely. Getting out in the community, be it, again, whether it's the chamber, whether it's a bank board, whether it's a community leadership, whether it's just, public project of some kind. Yeah, I think that absolutely helps every day because the number of people will come and say, hey, what's happening over there? They'll ask me those same curious questions, and I'm kind of the go-to guy. They don't want to typically know about the cap rate. They want to know what the pile of dirt on the corner is. Like what's happening, or when's the tenant coming, or whatever.
Okay, John. So take us through a typical day in your life. From the time you wake up, what time is that? What do you do until the time you go to bed? Tell me about, nothing's typical in real estate, but for you, you may have a cadence. I don't know. So tell me about that.
I do have one of my coaches taught me, you got to have a routine. You got to have a morning routine. Some people call it a morning ritual. And if you want to get right down to the details, I start every day with a glass of lemon water because it just is a tradition I've kind of gets things moving. Then I have my coffee, but I get up, I have my private time, my quiet time, little devotional time, do those kind of things. Usually get out of the house by 7:15. Come to the office. If I don't have a breakfast meeting or something, I'll come to the office. I start my day almost always, I'll say 95% of the time, with a daily planning time. Now, I block out about the first 30 minutes to just kind of catch up. I'm not the kind of guy who can end my day by planning because I'm usually going out the door, chasing something, running late for something. I make a habit, unfortunately, of squeezing those last. I can do 2 more emails and 3 more letters in the next 5 minutes, and so I'm going out the door late. So my morning, I start out with planning, and I start out my planning by looking at what are my top things I wanted to get done for the week. What are my top things I want to do today? What are my emails, my phone calls, my to-dos, and then I try to begin to prioritize those into say a 1 to 10. And work through those, being aware that one of the things that Massimo coaching has taught me is time blocking and making sure I'm setting aside. I'm not just doing busy work, but setting aside the time to do my prospect calls, my presence meetings, and some of those kinds of things to get my day started right. And then I'll work through. Sometimes it's tempting to just blow through a bunch of emails because you feel like you got something done. Other times you got to force yourself to know, I want to start off with the 2 biggest, hairiest, challenging things I've got to do. And then when I get those done, I really feel good. And I move on to whether it's emails or phone calls or follow-ups. Even an old dog, it's hard to teach new tricks. I've still got a list taped to my bulletin board beside me called the Stop Doing list, which was a coaching result of mine. And I've got another sign under my computer that says, is what you're doing now worth X dollars an hour, which is my hourly rate. And sometimes when I am typing a contract or making copies, I'm asking myself, why are you doing this? So it's a continual effort, but you can't give up. You've got to keep swinging at it.
Okay, so how much time do you dedicate to true prospecting? You're known in the community, but how much time do you really spend towards asking for business based on your level where you are today in your career?
Historically, I didn't prospect. I didn't call. And after a year and a half of coaching with Craig Nielsen, even he realizes that prospecting for me is a little different because it's rare for me to pick up the phone and say, "Hi, I'm John McCellan, and I'm a commercial real estate broker here in Salisbury." You know, "Hey, it's John. How you doing? Hey, let's talk about your building." They know who I am. I mean, 80% of the people. So I focus on trying to take people I know and whether existing relationship or existing knowledge of their business, even if we haven't done real estate, to continue to make them aware that I'm available. I try to stress to people in a variety of fashions that real estate is not just about calling me when it's time to list or sell or lease. It's let's get strategic. Let's think about long-term solutions. What is your transition plan? Have you examined the equity in your property, and could you do better somewhere else getting a return on that equity? Much more of I call myself an advisor. SBN calls us advisors because we're not just brokers or real estate agents, or I frankly don't like the word realtor, even though I am, and no disrespect meant to NAR. But
you are.
You can edit that out. But I like the word advisor because I think we're truly like a financial advisor or a commercial real estate advisor. We're one of the, in a perfect world, we're one of a guy's team. He's got his CPA, he's got his lawyer, he's got his financial planner, and he's got his real estate broker. To me, that's a perfect world.
I couldn't agree more. Okay, let's talk about your team. So do you have a team? Do you have an admin? Tell us about the structure of the team. Is it virtual? Is it integrated? Is it outsourced? How do you work within the confines of a team?
So I've either had an assistant or a partner for about the last 16 years. And honestly, the situation I have right now is the best by far I've ever had. And so what I have learned is that before you join a team or you add somebody to your team, understand who you are and understand how you work. You've got to understand your personality profiles, your personality quirks. I thought it was the dream team in the latter part of 2008, 2009. A lady contacted me. She was a broker coming down here from Baltimore. She was moving down to the shore because we're near the beach. Her and her husband, she was just going to come to this idyllic setting. She was a big city broker. She struggled mightily. I struggled mightily, and this was also during the recession. I struggled mightily to try to hold her up, and we were both getting drugged down because I was trying to bring her on as a 50-50, thinking she would generate, and it was literally a train wreck. I still like the lady today. We still do business together, but she's back in Baltimore doing great with another organization. I then hired a kind of a part-time, wanted to work at home, stay-at-home mom kind of person, thinking I need administrative help. Thankfully, she admitted she hated commercial real estate and she left. She actually left the state, so that's fine too. I then hired a lady who was renting apartments for a local apartment developer, was recommended to me as an assistant. She just came on as an assistant. She has so taken into commercial real estate. We did our AVA. She's done a little work with Massimo with the Assistance Coaching Accelerator Program. Literally, our AVA numbers are right on top of each other. So she and I, which is better or worse, we're kind of carved from the same niche, but she's quickly moving. I've even changed her title from assistant to associate advisor because she's learning the deals. I'm giving her more. I mean, she got a little bonus from day one, but I'm giving her more and more of the small lease deals. As I say no to certain deals, I mean, they're still coming in, and unfortunately, I don't have a lot of places to send a 2,000, 3,000 foot lease. I'll ask her, pick up the ball and run with it. She's learning it. She went to a CCIM class. She's beginning to understand the analytical aspect of it. And I see a great future for that. So team members, understand who you are before you add a team.
Fantastic, John. Very insightful. And you did mention you're going to start putting her in some CCIM classes. Now, you're in a tertiary market, so you really probably don't need a CCIM or SIOR for the pure idea of differentiating yourself. However, maybe you do, but why would someone, because it's a rare combination that people have both designations, CCIM and SIOR. So talk to us about that. What was your pursuits and why you decided to do that?
Well, first of all, I wasn't really given the option as to whether I was going to be a CCIM. Henry Hanna and now our current broker, Brent Miller, it's just like, oh, you're on the team? Okay, go take a CI class. Because it is really good exposure. It's really good analysis. You know, some of it's really, really deep analysis that we just don't use, but just understanding primarily the analytical aspect of cash flow, net operating income, cap rates, discounted cash flows. Those things are just rudimentary. I don't care what market you're in. They help you every day to understand it. My story of SIOR is really a little different. About 2 years ago, I was actually offered a scholarship through SVN to attend an SIOR conference. We'll pay the fee if you get yourself there and put yourself up. It was in Chicago. I went there and instantly fell in love with the organization. Great networking, great people. You know, it still was a challenge to go in, and people are from Boston or Lexington or Dallas or whatever, and you're from where? Oh, is that near Baltimore? No, it's 2 hours. Where? And you know, you have to explain where you are. But once you explain the market and some of the dynamics, there's opportunities to do business. And so I think the SIOR is a much more engaged, much more active organization. And so bottom line is, after that conference, about a year later, I went through finished the education. Kind of the benefit is I got credits for being a CCIM and I got credits for being old. So I basically had to prove my production and take the ethics class. And so, but it's been a great organization.
Oh, that's awesome. And so certainly you're leveraging that. So I know your time is valuable. So let me ask you one last question. You've been doing this now for 32 years. You've gone from being a researcher and then having some deals come to your way to getting known in the marketplace to going out and building your own little team, and then finally, you know, continue to invest in yourself. And yes, with the coaching, but with the CCIM, SIOR. So someone either mid-career, tertiary market, or maybe just starting out, when you look back and you say, John, if you had to give me one word of advice to be successful in commercial real estate, what would it be? What would your answer? What would your response be?
I think you got to know your market. You've got to know the properties. And look, if you're in New York City, you know, your guy Bob Knackle, you know, what's he do? 9 blocks, but he knows that like crazy. I do 2 states and 5 counties. So I don't know it as intimately, but there's not as much inventory. But you've got to know your market. You've got to know who the players are. You've got to get known, and just understand. Again, that's that curious aspect. We sometimes joke, but I'm not from this town, but I can tell you some of the historic owners who originally built a building 50 years ago, for whatever reason. But I just think I literally could drive down the street and name 80% of the owners of any given property.
Well, John McCellan, I can't thank you enough for your time and your insight and your willingness to share what it takes to others out there in the marketplace. And I know you'll continue to be very successful. So thank you again for all your help.
Absolutely happy to help and happy to be part of the Massimo program.
Okay, John, thank you.
Thanks.